Mental Firewalls, written by Alan Barker, published at www.jbhfile.com. This is the third of a three-part series of essays on mind control. As the earlier essays explained, mind control is the term commonly and historically used to describe clandestine operations to alter human behavior and thought. The series focuses mainly on high-technology techniques involving, for example, surveillance devices and electromagnetic weapons, though victims of all sorts of mind control techniques have common experiences and sequelae. The first essay of the series, Motives for Mind Control, dealt with some of the reasons that mind control harassment, torture, and exploitation happens and why it continues. The second part, Resisting the Mind Control State, dealt with ways to protest and resist mind control abuses in a supposedly free society. In this part, Barker, the author, explores some of the methods and techniques that victims have developed to help them resist these ongoing human rights atrocities committed every day against their bodies and minds. In a sense, we are going to have a look at mind control torture from the torture victim's point of view, from inside the mind of the victim. This essay is written from the point of view of someone experiencing real torture from externally induced mind control phenomena, including induced voices in the head, surveillance, harassment from various sources, and non-lethal aversive jolts. While make no secret of the fact that Barker, the author, have personally been subjected to a similar sort of mind control torture, this is not his story. Of course it is influenced by events he have experienced, but the essay is a composite from his interactions with many mind control victims and provocateurs over the past few years. Barker saved the actual details of his own experiences for his lawyers or for prosecutors when the time comes, or perhaps for other writings he might choose to make public. Thus, in keeping with the earlier parts of the series, you do not even have to believe the author about him being tortured, though it all happened. There are many people in the world, including many American citizens, who have experienced very similar things. You can even think that all of those people made it all up, and still have to be concerned despite your Holocaust denial. The technology undoubtedly exists right now to carry out the sorts of torture operations described in this essay, and will only become more advanced with time. Barker covered a lot of different techniques and possibilities in this essay, but keep in mind that the truth is bad enough. What we already know and can document is bad enough, and is only the tip of the iceberg. In the spirit of mentioning all the possibilities, though, let me briefly discuss mental illness here. There truly are some people with mental illnesses which occur naturally. There are also people with mental illnesses which were externally and purposely inflicted, for example by harassment operations. And there are mind control victims who are completely normal except that they have undergone years and years of some of the most hideous torture imaginable, in a lying, despicable society that denies it, ignores it, and further tortures the victims. We know this from documented sources. What the government has admitted is bad enough. I hope this essay will prove helpful even to victims who suffer from true mental illness. I call them victims also because the cowardly US government is hidden behind the skirts of the mentally ill to commit some of the worst atrocities imaginable, and the truly mentally ill are victimized by this as well. The mentally ill are also known to have been used as guinea pigs in mind control experiments precisely because they would tend to be disbelieved and are relatively powerless victims for torturers to experiment on. Some victims may have been poisoned by drugs engineered to cause them psychological problems, and I do not mean ordinary street drugs. Others have had psychosurgery, microwave harassment, etc., which can cause organic problems in addition to psychological problems. And of course, the mind is really not separate from the body, and psychological torture is just as bad as direct physical torture. Most people are still free to think what they want, to the extent that that still means anything, and some will try to second-guess the victims and provide armchair diagnoses of the victims' problems. People who try to dismiss true torture victims as just mentally ill will receive and deserve the utmost contempt from the victims and from those decent people who know what is really going on. And we will remember. For the reasons described in Part 2, the psychiatric and psychological communities cannot be trusted, except for a few actual healers here and there. Much of this essay contains a sort of analysis that it is fashionable among the pseudo-intelligentsia to dismiss as just black and white thinking. These people have their 6th grade epiphany that not everything is black and white, and for the rest of their lives go around justifying anything convenient with this immoral relativism. They never realize, or it just does not suit their lies, that while nothing is black and white, some things are close enough that they might as well be. I will be writing about Nazi pigs, and I mean this in the sense of Mengele the Nazi pig, not any other cultural pig association. Those who dismiss this sort of thinking perhaps would think differently if they had ever experienced real torture or were capable of the slightest bit of empathy. There is no doubt that this sort of thinking has been misused or misapplied at various times, but I cannot worry about how every moron might misunderstand or misapply what Barker wrote. This is the end of Part 1 of Alan Barker's Mental Firewalls.